ready.
Okay, we have, we will call to order the January 17 meeting of the Project Review Board, and note that Jim Monteleone is expected but may be held up with the traffic backed up from the accident of Route 95. And Lynn is supposed to be with us and is not?
Not yet.
Okay, we still have a quorum, so we'll call the meeting to order. And first, ask Caroline for an information update.
Sorry, I have to get back to used to being back on Zoom and this end of Zoom. So updates of staff approvals and other things going on. So in your digital packet, you had some information on staff approvals. There were some staff approvals of signs at J. Crew on Bow Street and approval of a shed at the El Bean Outdoor Discovery Center on Marietta Lane. And as far as the planning board, they have started the comp plan process as we talked about at the last meeting. They had 2 initial kind of meetings with North Star. They will be reviewing the first 3 draft of inventory chapters of the comp plan at their next meeting. A lot of stuff the planning board's been working on is kind of at the council level at this point. Last night's council meeting was tabled, but cannabis regulations, LD 2003 implementation, and changes to design review are all expected to be taken up by the town council next Tuesday at their meeting. That would be in person or on Zoom if anyone is interested in attending. The Downtown Vision Implementation Task Force has kind of been on break. They were supposed to regroup in January, but we have had people out with sickness and other things going on, so that hasn't happened. We continue to work on the development of the Freeport Climate Action Plan. Again, the Sustainability Advisory Board is really taking the lead on these efforts. They're really just getting into the phase where they're going to have draft chapters and goals available for people to look at. This has kind of all been put together over the years-long work in a series of public workshops, which people have given their input on. You're welcome to go to the FSAB meetings. There's still information online if you want to give feedback. And when they start looking at some of the draft chapters, we'll be sure to share that information with the board in case anybody is interested in attending those meetings. And then the last thing was the comp plan, but I feel like we kind of covered that under the first item. Any questions?
I guess we're good, Caroline. Sorry you can't be with us, and hope you feel better.
Thank you.
One note, Caroline, that you and I talked about, just a reminder for board members, when you send us, we get meeting materials through 2 channels. One is the board link, which includes everything, and we also are always copied on your public link for meetings, and that is not, I just want board members so that doesn't always include all the attachments and everything, so the link that's directed to us is what we should use for meetings, right?
Yeah, so the board, both the planning board and project review board wanted to know what was going on with each other. So we have a general planning department distribution list. And so you get agendas, minutes, staff reports via that. And then you also get links to the web. We do have limitations with what we can load onto the web. In a meeting like this, where the packets were really small, we put everything on the web. But in a larger meeting where you have a couple hundred pages of stormwater reports and calculations and large plan sets, we aren't able to post everything on the web, so you do get a different link. So make sure you're using the link to share the packets if you're relying on digital packets, or for those of you that gets paper packets, it's kind of irrelevant.
Because we don't want to get shortchanged on our stormwater calculations. Thank you, Caroline. Next is a review of the minutes from the December 20 meeting. Are there any comments or additions?
Yeah, I had comments in the first paragraph next to the last line. Conceptual, I think it's supposed to be conceptual, I think. But maybe I realized conceptual was a word too, so I defer to you. But more broadly, I thought just compliments to Sharon on the thoroughness of the meeting. I was here Other than that, I'm good.
Great. Any other comments? Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented with the note that Fred made?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor, we need to, we'll do a roll call vote because we might end up with some members on Zoom. Berger?
Yes.
Donahue?
Yes.
Hamlin not present still? Madeira?
Yes.
Monteleone not present still?
Yes.
Reiki, yes. Yankee?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Welcome, members of the public. We've got two agenda items tonight. The first is Cedar Haven Family Campground, which is a site plan review. This is a concept presentation
Board?
only. Yep.
I'm here.
Highland.
I'm sorry,
Just jumped in. How do you feel about those minutes? You in favor of that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so is Jim.
Okay, Jim? Okay, hi, Jim.
I'm on too, although I'm in the car because 295 is shut down entirely. So
Yeah.
I'll be there momentarily.
Yeah, good luck with that. I did the same thing. Sorry you're there. Cedar Haven Family Campground, this is for concept review only, no action required tonight, but you're going to give us an update. Caroline, can you give us a staff update on this first?
Sure, so this is a conceptual presentation, really just to introduce the project to you. There's an existing campground at this site. They have acquired some additional residential properties, which they intend to incorporate into the land area, and they have some additional land. So they are proposing an expansion of the campsite, expansion of the road, additional sites, and a back dose. We do have a section in the zoning ordinance pertaining to campgrounds. There's certain requirements. Sometimes there's buffers, there's a land area requirement. And as we go forward, the applicant will need to demonstrate they meet all of that. They will need to treat for stormwater. There were some questions about stormwater permitting where a lot of it's older and not all existing, but they've been working with the town engineer on that. So the applicant should be here to do a presentation and kind of walk you through what they're thinking. You will need additional information. You'll need to get the whole site plan showing the parcel boundaries so you can see setbacks and bufferings and things like that. We'll need to better understand what they're going to do with the property lines. I'm assuming that they're going to merge them. They show some buildings to be replaced, but they don't quite have details yet, and they do show a room for a solar panel. So they're here to introduce. I think the question I had is the board interested in scheduling a site walk? So I think after you hear about it, that's something you guys can talk about.
Thanks, Caroline. Want to give us a rundown?
So yes, my name is Jeff Reed. I work with City of Engineers, and I'm here tonight to present the concept plan, some basic project details, and then hopefully gather some feedback from the board, answer any questions you might have so that we can then take this on to an actual site plan application.
Sorry, Ford.
Yes.
We can't hear on Zoom. I think maybe he needs a wireless mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Working on that right now. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And the presentation.
Why don't you reintroduce yourself to them?
Sure. So, again, my name is Jeff Reed. I work with CV Mahar Engineers, and I'm here tonight to present the concept plan for the Cedar Haven Family Campground expansion. I've got some concept, some actual plan sheets here in this presentation that we can look over, and then some additional information just to give some background on the site, on the property, and what we're hoping to accomplish with the expansion. So, some basic site conditions, existing site details. The site's located off of Baker Road in West Freeport. The overall parcel is just under 14 acres. It's 17.39 acres. And that's the size of the total combined parcel as it is right now. The original campground was located on lots identified as tax map 17, 18A, 18B, and 19. And roughly 2 years ago, lots 20A and lot 20D were the residential properties that Caroline had referenced that were purchased, and we're looking to expand the campground onto The properties are all located in the rural residential zone 1. Again, the existing property, the existing campground, started back in 1965. It's been operating under that use for a long time. The project area for the expansion is just over 3.5 acres. There are some existing residences, driveways, garages on those lots, totaling just over 15,000 square feet. And there is a wetland area on the back of one of the properties. It's a little over 3,500 square feet. This is a copy of the boundary survey that we had completed for the project. And I'm not sure if we can see, yep, you can see my cursor here, so that's great. So most of the parcel to the left and to the top of the page were the existing campground. You can see my cursor following along the property line for the expansion parcel. So there's an existing mobile home and garage, driveway, and then a residence and another garage that make up the two parcels that we are part of the property now that we're expanding onto. What we're hoping to accomplish here with the site plan application and expansion will be approximately 25 new campsites. The campsites will be served with private water, sewer, and underground electric. The expansion will include approximately 550 feet of internal access drive to serve the campsites. Future development will include a 1,300 square foot bathhouse. We're also looking at adding a 3,456 square foot pavilion on the property, which will be an open air covered area to serve the campsite, and then potentially a solar array. And I hope I got this right. I've got Ted here with me, but 30 by 40 foot solar array in the northeast corner, and that will be a tracking system, so it'll be able to rotate on an axis. Some of the other details for the project include the septic system that will serve the new sites. It will be over 2,000 gallons a day, so it will be an engineered septic system. We have been in touch with DHHS already, had our pre-application meeting with them, and we've dug some test pits for that as well. So that location and the sizing on that are in progress right now. We're looking at adding a new well to supply the additional campsites that will be located in the north portion of the site. And again, each of these lots will include underground electric that will be added onto the existing electrical network within the campground. Questions already? As I'd outlined before, the proposed project area is going to be a little over 3.5 acres. The impervious area associated with the new development will be a little over an acre, about 1.1 acres, a little over 48,000 square feet. As Caroline had mentioned, we are going to treat the stormwater runoff, and our plan right now is to use grassed under drain soil filters. We'd outlined 3 locations in the concept plan that we had submitted last month. I believe we will be able to accomplish the required treatment with 2. We have been in touch and met with Adam Bliss initially to discuss and get us off on the right track for the stormwater design. And I'm planning to reach out to him again probably next week as we dial in on that a little bit. We will have approximately 3,561 square feet of wetland impact associated with the proposed development. Now, this is the concept plan that we had submitted last month, and that I believe you all have in your packets. The process has been a little bit fluid. We've made a few minor modifications to this, so I hope I'm not going to throw you too much, but I'm going to pick over to the next, we, in working through some of the septic and some of the stormwater considerations over the past few weeks, we've had to adjust things a little bit. So the lot layout has changed slightly. The proposed roads internally are the same. The septic location is the same. What you notice on this plan and the major differences are that the future bathhouse we've located a little further away from the property line. And that'll be constructed again sometime later. But we wanted to include with this round of the application so that we can phase the development and include that in the permit application. Also included in the vicinity of there's an existing residence here that will be removed. That's going to be the location of the pavilion. And again, that will be a future development.
Can you just point that again? I didn't
Sorry.
see
So, okay, so there we go, my cursor. So this is the future pavilion.
Do it again, circle around. I lost you. Oh, okay.
I can also bring up a PDF of this that I can mark up with red here kind of real time if that would help. So this is the pavilion.
So
here.
that's essentially in the same place as the mobile home is.
Correct. So the mobile home will be removed and it will be replaced with the pavilion at some point in the future. And again, up here, so you can see this is the bathhouse. And we just moved that slightly outside, a little further away from the property line with the proposed site grading. That's going to work out a little bit better. What we do have here, again, this area, which outlines, that's not the 30 by 40 solar array, obviously, but that is the 8-foot by 8-foot base. So that'll be located there. We have a stormwater treatment area outlined here. We have a wood processing area here. Right now, all that occurs in this area, and this will be used for wood processing until we're able to relocate it towards this back corner. The second stormwater treatment area is in this natural low area over here. Some additional specific to the campground developments include a waste pump out station here. And we're going to build out this section here by the exit with a dumpster so that visitors leaving the site will be able to kind of offload some of their trash, some of their waste, pump out their tanks before they leave. And that, in a nutshell, is the development. The permitting that we are anticipating for this project includes the site plan review with the town of Freeport, obviously. And that will also include the stormwater review. Because we are disturbing wetlands, we will have U.S. Army Corps general permit for wetlands alteration. Based on the size, we anticipate this is just going to be a self-verification, which is a pretty simple, straightforward piece. In addition to that, I've outlined that with Maine DHHS, we will have some review for the engineered septic system, which we've started. We've had a pre-application meeting with them. We are designing the system now, and that will be ongoing through the site plan process. I'm assuming that similar to other developments, I'm not sure if you're going to need that completed design before the site plan is approved, or if that's something that we can outline as a condition of approval, potentially, so that we can make sure that we accomplish that prior to issuance of any sort of building permit or before any construction occurs on site. So with that, that's the project. I mean, I would love to hear any questions, any comments, any items that or advice that you may have moving this forward.
Any questions from the board?
I was just wondering if you could go into a little more detail about vehicular movement, particularly
Sure.
coming
Absolutely.
off of Baker Road.
So it may be easiest to show this. What we have in the overall, so this is kind of the overall parcel, okay, and it doesn't show all the specific details here, but the site entrance for the campground right now is here, and there's a main office here. would it be easier if I pulled up a PDF so that I could
Yeah.
edit this in red, maybe? Okay. Let me adjust this here real quick. Okay. So this is the same site plan.
Not projecting quite yet.
Oops. We lose the connection.
I don't know what happened.
Go back to the PowerPoint and see if that's any better.
I think Tom will come whizzing in here in a second.
When he sees
So
it,
just check the connection here at the bottom. Just to make sure it's plugged. Should be okay.
I'm back.
Okay. We can hear you, but we can't see you. We've lost the, beg your pardon. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much. How's that?
Whose feedback is that? Someone from here?
It's just from the mic.
Well, that was me putting the mic on. My hand was brushing the phone on there. Okay, so let me try this again. If I bring up this in PDF form, I should be able to take this and draw some lines. So the site entrance right now, so this is Baker Road here. Okay. And site entrance is here. This is the main office right here. And basically everybody enters the campground here, and from here they'll go and they'll access their different campsites after they check in. What we're proposing here is coming out this way. Okay. And looping around to campsites here. And then this road here will be connected to this upper loop. So there will be traffic circulation off of this upper, so those upper lots, they'll be able to come in through, oops, looks like it's one way. They'll have to run through, around the back, and then there'll be a connection over here, this back loop to access the lots on this back side. So these will be accessed by coming out around this way. This, right now, we're planning to be a two-way traffic. This will be one way coming out around the back side, and then the exit itself here will be a one-way exit out. And what we're hoping to accomplish there, if we have a site walk, you'll be able to see this. Right now, sight lines from here are a little bit limited, especially looking back towards the north. There's a hill here, and this exit will be roughly at the top of the hill. So that'll improve your sight lines in both directions. So larger vehicles and campers leaving the campground, it'll be a safer situation. Do you have other more specific?
So as you're leaving, is there a paved apron, or is that where?
There will. So in the, so let me find the right plan.
Well, you're doing that. Caroline has her hand up.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that I did hear from Public Works today, and they said there was another driveway entrance approved in there in 2021. So are you proposing an additional one at this point in time? If not, the current one was approved for commercial use. The one comment they had, which I think we could look at if the board does a site walk, is that if you are going to reuse some of those properties where they have residential driveways, if there's a way to minimize the number of curb cuts up there, that would be something that would be good to look at for
Sure.
improved circulation and safety.
Sure, and I think that's a great idea. We are planning to use this existing site entrance here, but again, it will be limited to one-way direction out. but we're going to use the existing curb cut. We're going to take a look at that existing apron that's there and make sure that what's there meets current standard. And we'll reinforce that if we need to. With regard to some of the others, if we can right now, this building here, we're planning on keeping. When this goes away, we may look at potentially removing that access there. There are a couple of internal drives and accesses through here, and it will honestly depend on kind of the function of the campground. But I agree, it does make sense if we can reduce the curb cuts in the future. That would probably be better for everybody.
And Lynn has her hand up. Lynn?
I have a question that's silly, I'm sure. When I thought of campsites, I was thinking of tents. So I presume because you're putting in water service and sewer hookups and electrical, that we're talking about campers.
Yes. Yep. I mean, there is the option to camp here, but primarily the market that uses this campground currently are trailers, RVs, and other camping equipment, that's mobile on wheels and has those connections for water, sewer, and electric. There will be a couple of tent sites probably, but they'll be limited.
And is there a lot of turnover over the course of a season? I mean, are the rentals for a month or a week or?
So it varies. There are seasonal rentals here, so there are patrons who come in and they'll have a camper there for the season. There are some others who will come out for weekends or a week trip. I mean, it really depends on the people coming up to visit and what they're looking for. But by and large, I mean, average stay is only a week.
I was going to say, if anyone's going to speak, just go to the mic and introduce yourself. You all set, Lynn?
Yeah, well, and I presume they all have cars in addition to these campers so they can get around.
Well, so some of them will be mobile homes, so they will be driving their actual camper, but a lot of those folks do have a secondary vehicle in tow, especially if they're coming for a longer visit, so that they can leave their camper parked and they can have a smaller vehicle that they'll take into town or visit the area with.
And there are parking places for each of these campsites.
Yep.
In addition to the camper itself.
Right. So if you look, and I'm assuming you can see the screen.
No, I'm looking at the handout.
Okay. So if you're looking at the handout, you can see that at each of these campsites, there's a gravel turnout. Okay. Mm-hmm. And those are sized to accommodate a camper or trailer and a vehicle that would park, basically in front of these in line. There will be a section of reinforced turf beyond the edge of this gravel area. So basically, the front wheels and the back wheels of the trailer will go to the end of the gravel. And then we're going to do a reinforced turf along the edge. And what we're trying to do is provide as much vegetation here as we can. So
reinforced turf means sort of an underlayment.
So reinforced turf means there'll be compacted gravel underneath a thin layer of topsoil that will then be seeded so that it'll be grass. But if the trailer or the camper accidentally go beyond the edge of the gravel that you can see, they won't sink 6 or 8 inches deep into loam.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead, Linda.
I have a question about this is considered now, these are a driveway that's within the property that you're creating, the road.
Right.
It's not a standard roadway for a subdivision. And the reason I'm asking is I'm thinking of these very, very large RVs that you see driving in and out.
Right.
So is the roadway and the turning radiuses and all that?
Will all be evaluated
Size
for
for
larger vehicles, as well as emergency vehicles too, because we want to make sure, I mean, God forbid, if a fire truck or anything had to come in here, we want to make sure that they have maneuvering room, as well as a stable surface to drive on.
Okay.
So these will all meet town standard for those, as far as radiuses, as far as driveway construction, to be able to provide safe and stable access.
Thank you.
So just a follow-up question, more related to the code itself. So I don't think we can tell from this, but you will at some point show that each site is 5,000 square feet and has the 200 feet. So
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
I had two questions. One is, are there electrical hookups on each of the sites, correct?
Correct.
And so does that mean that they're allowed to run their generators?
Well, if they have the electrical service, then they wouldn't need it's an alternative to running a generator, so they can plug in. It'd be like a shore power hookup, if you will. I suppose if there was a power outage, like anybody else, if they have a generator and they wanted to run that for their camp, I suppose that they could. But that's not really the plan or intent. Would be that there would be people here who would come in and run generators or other kind of noisy items if there was power available. That's one of the reasons why we're providing that.
And is there, I know at marinas, typically there's a charge for hookup for power. Is there, for shore power, is there a charge for hooking up here, or?
It's part of the fee for the
It is,
campsite.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just thinking about emissions, I'm thinking about noise.
Sure.
In the area. And then, on that driveway going in the new exit, I guess, and then there's that house, the building right there, the existing building. Is that part of the property? It's boxed out, it looks like a property line that goes around that, or is that, I can't really tell, or
So
is that a
that's-
utility line?
So yes, it is part of the property, but it's not, what this line shows here is basically the back area of the campsite.
Okay.
Okay, so this smaller building here is an existing garage, and this is an existing structure, an existing house.
Okay.
And because it's a permanent structure, that's probably going to stay. And we're not exactly sure what we're going to be doing for that in terms of if that becomes a rental unit or if that becomes.
Okay.
But that will be part of it's part of the overall campground property, and it will also be part of the campground business in one form or another.
Okay.
Possibly as a rental unit or.
Okay. And what do we have for neighbors across the way?
So, let's see if we have it showing on here.
And along the property line of the new sites?
Right. So we do have neighbors across the street. It's residential development, and I want to say there are probably 3 or 4 houses over there. There is a house over here, and then along the back side, to the west of this, there's a newer development actually. I believe it's Champagne Way that abuts the property to the west. The closest, I'd actually checked this in relation to the back section because I was concerned with relocating the wood processing area. I know that from this back corner, the closest structure is over 600 feet away. There are closer properties to the campground parcel across Baker Road on the other side. Those are probably within 100 feet of the road. And right beside, correct. We have one of the other abutters here who's on the other side as well. So the property is surrounded by residential development.
Okay. And have you reached out to the abutters, not to the abutters, but the people across the road there? Because it looks like their residences are fairly close to the road from Google Maps. it seems like if you're going to be shifting the traffic flow, that could impact them.
Well, I suppose potentially it could. Again, we viewed the option to improve the sight lines and the safety leaving the site as a good thing. There is a person across the roadway here. I personally have not reached out to them. I think Ted may have, because he's been in touch with his neighbors. And I think everybody in the area is aware of the proposed development. What I can say about that, hopefully, will be okay with the neighbor, is that most of the traffic, I think, leaving here will be, kind of, Monday mornings, that type of thing, after a week's rental. Most of the large vehicles are going to be pulling in and staying for a period of time. Like I said, I think the average stay is probably on the order of a week or so.
Okay. The 25 additional sites with large RVs, I'm a recipient of the traffic from Wolfsnack, from
Okay.
Recompense.
Yeah.
And the larger and larger the vehicles get, the noisier and noisier they get. And so it'd be interesting to learn a little bit more about traffic counts, anticipated traffic counts.
Sure.
And then also on that, the wood processing facility in the back, I assume that's going to be chainsaws, cutting or a wood processor. It's probably going to have some sort of cutting machine. And
Sure.
I know you said, I think 600 feet, you said?
It was actually 619.
And it's wooded?
again, it was using Google Earth just to draw a radius.
And it's wooded?
It is wooded, yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
Just one about the dumpster. It appears to be sort of sharing space with lot or site 18.
Right.
Is that a good relationship between a viable camping site and the proximity of the dumpster, and trash haulers coming presumably up the one-way road, but I see it's a short distance to reach it.
Sure. So, I mean, the dumpster is going to include enclosure. It is going to be screened. And I'm sure that the fee for that site is going to take that into consideration. I mean, in terms of, what's desirable and what's not, I mean, it's an option and space to use for a campsite, and I guess it'll be priced accordingly.
Okay. Yeah, it just seemed like you'd want to buffer it and treat it.
Right,
close it, like you said.
and we are planning, again, to have an enclosure there. We'll take a closer look at that if, in addition to that, some vegetation maybe would be in order. And that may be something that we show when we kind of build the actual site plan application out. But that's a great comment, thank you.
Any other questions or
Or
comments?
can I just,
Yes, Lynn?
can I add something before you move on? It's Caroline.
Yes.
I just want to piggyback on what Todd said, not directly under the purview of this board, but overlapping in some capacity with regards to the wood clearing area. Just be aware that the town of Freeport has two relatively new ordinances that might come into play, which you can find on our website. We have our earth materials processing ordinance now, which has some regulations, and then our loitering curfew and noise ordinance has some new regulations on the timing of using some materials that might be involved. So just make sure you flag that on your radar as you kind of finalize your plans to use that space. Make sure you look at those standards because they'll come into play as well.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
If there are no other questions from the board, I've got a couple. Sharon, the minutes ought to reflect that Jim Monteleone is here, so all of us are present now. If we decide at the end of this discussion, we'll decide whether we want a sidewalk or not. And
Sure.
if so, we'll have a better mental picture of what this is all about. Has this historically been open to the general public? Is that the plan going forward?
As a campground?
Right.
Yeah, it's a private campground, but yes, it's open to the public.
Okay, great. And Caroline, Jeff asked about the possibility of us potentially issuing an approval or a final decision while stormwater management plan is still pending. Is that, I guess I'll ask both of you.
So Caroline, what what I'm curious about, and this typically happens when, if we have like an application for a subdivision or some site plans, I was thinking specifically for septic design of the engineered septic system, as well as there are going to be a couple of pump stations out here to basically feed the septic. And if those designs and final designs would be required before we receive a permit approval, or if we could condition those with the approval so that those final designs would be completed before any sort of a building permit was issued. We're taking steps right now, including test pits and working with the HHS and other organizations to make sure that that these are sited appropriately, and we know that we have capacity based on the design calculations and everything else. But I know that we are interested in moving forward with the site plan application as soon as we can, with the goal that we'd be able to start some of this work before the busy part of the camping season starts. So I guess with that in mind, it was a question that I had, if those specific items could be part of a conditional approval.
So ultimately, it's up to the board, regardless of what I think.
Sure.
But, for stormwater, that's usually resolved.
Stormwater
during the
will,
review process.
yeah.
With the exception, sometimes there could be a few minor adjustments. For water, in the case where this is a public water supplier, there usually is something contingent on getting final approval or whatever might be required from DHHS as a public water supplier and due to the modifications. As far as waste disposal, we don't always have the septic design, but the board is going to need enough information to tell that standard for solid waste can be met.
Right.
So whether that be test pits or other analysis, I think as long as the board feels like they have the information they need to make a decision. But I think when I'm back in the office and other town staff are back in the office, we can work with you and look at what you have and see if we feel like you have enough information to bring to the board.
Okay.
And just, so I think that answers your question, and I'll just note also you have some hands up on Zoom.
Okay, and just before we move on from this, just to be clear, we are planning on having the stormwater and stormwater management designed and completed before we submit the application. So I was more concerned with the septic and the water supply than anything else, just because those are items where we will be dealing with some external agencies, and as long as we can provide adequate information to the board so that they're comfortable to make that a condition, if we can move forward that way.
Great, thanks.
I have one more question for Caroline. Now that we've seen all of this, I don't think we've seen a campground, at least in my tenure on the board. Caroline, can you just, you do say here in the staff report, needs to demonstrate compliance with 505 campgrounds of the Freeport zoning ordinance. Can you just highlight that again now that we've seen this and put it in context?
Sure, I'm just going to pull that up because I have not seen much campground expansion in my 20 years on Freeport either, Todd. But I do think that's important for the board to look at what is required there. So give me just a second.
It's on page 135 of the draft I have.
So there's a standard for recreational RV and tent areas need to meet certain standards. So they have a requirement for square footage for parking. They need to have a certain land area. So just like we do with dwelling units, sometimes you need so much square footage of land per unit. In this case, they need 5,000 square feet of land area. There's some things they need to deduct for each total 10 RV and shelter site. So they'll need to calculate that based upon the site and what they have. I'm not sure what they have for existing versus proposed. We'll need to look at that. They need to show their property lines to show that they meet setbacks for the district. And in this case, we're in the rural zone, so the setbacks are 50 feet from the front and side property line and 75 from the rear. Once we get some clarity on the boundaries and what they're going to do with the internal property lines, we'll need to look at that. There are some screening requirements for screening from non-compatible areas, and then water and electrical utilities do need to be underground, all of which I think the applicant is aware of.
Thanks, Caroline.
And then, just lastly, I just want to get clarification. Ford, you had asked the question whether this was available, open to the public, and I think it's available to your paying customers, public, correct? So me being a resident of Freeport, or, I couldn't just walk in and go swimming in your pond. So I think it's not a membership campground where you have to be part of a larger,
Okay.
membership or something like that.
So I've got Ted Crooker, he's the owner of the campground. Here.
Well, thank you very much for a successful 2 or 3 more nights. But I'm with. I live in Brunswick. I was with Crooker and Sons. My father was Harry, and I've always been interested in campgrounds. I always loved them. My church actually owned it for 6 years prior to me. Seventh-day Adventist campground. I'm an Adventist, so it was kind of a natural, and I kind of went there and tried to make it more successful. 2018, I don't know if anybody here realizes it or not, but we were picked by a camping thing over the United States called Step Outside as one of the 5 most awesome family campgrounds in the state of Maine. It first was Bailey's with 900 sites, Papoose with 160 sites, Mount Desert, a state park up in Arcadia, Mount Blue, a state park, and then it was us, a little 72, 78 sites. And I couldn't believe it. I said, how did this happen? My daughter did our website, and we get a lot of reviews. And I called them up and says, how did we get picked with this group you just mentioned, state parks and everybody? It was all done by likes, social media. I was pretty happy to see that. We get a lot of happy people there. We have free dog wash. We have carvings, which you won't see. They're put away for the winter, but we have chainsaw carvings, which are extremely well done. And they're painted by a local woman in Topsom, and they go viral. And people come to see the tractors and all those type of things. So we have a really good time there. I actually tried to be frugal, and I 1031 the lot next door. The campground is one, and I'm in another, but it's all going to be one. I'm hoping this 50-foot I just heard about with the property lines, if they're 2 of one of the same people, might be able to be a little bit gracious on that one. But as far as what you mentioned about vehicles, RVs being loud, they're no louder than a UPS truck. They're really quite quiet, and there's some of them come in there that are, $1 million buses. They all come with 2 dogs, and they love the free dog wash. And they think we're pretty special. They can't understand why we have the honor system for ice and wood on Sabbath days, which is our Saturday, but we do. It's the honor system. So it's all really nice. But as far as why I really got up here was I've always encouraged neighbors to come in, walk, bike, come in there anytime, use the playground. During COVID, kids were in there, and I felt really bad that our governor told them they couldn't use the playground. And I had to get out and tell the local kids that the liability of you being here with COVID is something I really don't want to accept on my insurance policy during COVID. So I said, you want to go back and see what you want to do about the governor, but I couldn't have them there during it. But they come all the time now. There's some great kids that come play basketball. They use kayaks. They put the life preservers back now. We got them trained. And so they know if they don't do that, I'll say, look, you can't be here. But we have some out-of-staters coming, and some of those kids, their language can stay in the other states. But so we take care of that. We're very frugal. I will say, I got the mic here. I hope L.R. Beans is listening. The concerts they used to have. We used to have some really nice people come to concerts. The last year or 2, I don't know who they're getting here for people in concert, but they're rowdy. We've had to kick a couple out. We don't take the drinking, and then we're quiet at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. It's quiet time, and it's quiet there. We have a lot of dogs. You don't hear any dogs. We have a lot of dogs. You don't hear them. They're quiet. And if there's neighbors that complain about it, I've never had any do it. Really, we've never had some really bad deals. We take care of stuff internally. But we like to give vegan pizza. We think it's the best kept secret in all of Freeport. We have vegan pizza every Thursday and Friday night. And have vegan ice cream, 5 flavors, the maple syrup, maple walnut will knock your socks off. We have gluten-free waffles. We have all that stuff. We advertise that. People come just for those foods. Kids especially. Kids that can't eat regular ice cream. They say, where are you going to go to campground? They say, St. Evans. It's all about the ice cream. But
That's helpful, Mr. Crook. I think we have a better picture of what we're dealing with here.
yeah. So anyhow, neighbors are welcome. Anybody in town is welcome, as far as I'm concerned. We want to be a friendly neighborhood.
Right.
So
Thank you
that
very
was that was my main gesture.
Yeah.
I got a little carried away.
If there are no other questions from the board.
Nope. That's one.
Elaine, go ahead.
Okay. I think a site walk would be very helpful, but my question is, with all of the snow, how can the owners peg it out so that we can see where today all of the campers are versus tomorrow? In other words, this is going to be difficult because of the terrain and the weather.
Jeff.
So that's my question, because if they want a conditional approval without the water studies, I mean, I'm in favor of that, but it would mean having a walk fairly soon.
Jeff, you're familiar with the site. Knowing the site, you think you can get us oriented?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think we can go and we can make sure that a lot of the existing access drives and everything else are cleared so that they're clean and they're safe to walk. And I mean, the work area is like 3.5 acres. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And I think we can go in, we can park, we can walk along the access drives and the proposed access drives. And this is where the sites are going to be. And I think, with a plan in hand, I think we can help everybody visualize the potential development.
Great, thanks.
Easily.
Thank you.
So this is...
Just one more question. What's the terrain currently in the area that we would be walking on? Is it wooded? Is it vegetated at all?
Most of it has been cleared already.
I have a question for Caroline. If I can loop you and Caroline, has there been a prior analysis or determination about whether the pads for RVs fit within what the ordinance describes as a road or a driveway that's excluded from the square footage count per site?
I would say typically if it's not specifically called out, we wouldn't include it, would be my first reaction, but I think it's something we need to take another look at, and we can work with the applicant on. As you said, does it say parking areas? Is that why you're raising the question?
Well, it says that each site shall contain a minimum of 5,000 square feet, not including roads and driveways. And so, if it's been previously determined that these pads constitute a driveway, then I imagine that they substantively changed the per site size calculation.
It hasn't been. We could have the code officer look at it, looking at it and reading it. I would not interpret it that way. I would think again, that's calculating the land area of the total overall site to make sure they have that 5,000 square feet per campsite. In this case, the RV pad would be part of the campsite, so I would not think that would be included, but I'd be happy to take another look at that before the applicant comes back.
Okay. Thanks, Caroline. So this is not we're not being asked to take any action tonight. This is concept presentation, and it's also not a public hearing. We'll have the opportunity to decide later if we want to have a public hearing, but we still welcome public comment sometimes.
And there is one person in the audience, John Lowe.
Okay,
John, you're on, if you can unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, my name is John Lowe, and I live very close to where this campground is, and my children went there when it just started, actually, and so I'm very familiar with it. And I only have a couple of comments, and they're not to be negative. Hopefully, you don't take them that way. But I'm concerned with all of these additional campsites, if they're all going to have outdoor fireplaces and so forth, and with that, and how that is regulated. And the other issue that I'm a little bit concerned with is lighting. And with the night skies that we have here in Maine, I hope the lighting is all kept to a very minimal, and I'm not sure how that will be addressed, or if will be addressed at all through the ordinance. I'm certainly supportive of the campground. I always have been, but with the expansion, and also they're going to, if they have this large new solar array, which I know now has been approved by the town, and I'm not sure how many of those they can have on this site, but I think the sidewalk would be very good. I think you certainly should have a sidewalk. And that's the only questions I have. If they can address those types of things, that would be helpful for me as a neighbor.
thank you.
On another road. I'm not directly near it, but I'm fairly close to it. Because sometimes the people that come up here with the cars, they come up Ledgewood Lane by mistake, and then no way for them to turn around unless they unhook the car and do it that way, because we're a dead-end road up here. So also they might want to have some additional signage pointing people towards where the campground is. Thank you.
Thank you. The lighting standard you raised is, there are performance requirements for that will be part of our review. Todd?
There's one more.
Okay.
Pete, could you please introduce yourself and unmute? 1 second. There you go. Unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Pete Navarra. I live on the aforementioned Champagne Lane with my family, and we're also very familiar with the campground. We also sometimes have similar issues with people coming by and pulling down our dead-end street and having trouble turning around. But for the most part, it's definitely a quiet campground, and not any issues that we've had so far. My concern with 25 new campsites coming in is that does feel like a large amount of people and campers, and I wonder if there's any plans to update or reinforce the fencing that borders our subdivision at all to help with keeping those divisions in place.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything that you want to respond to at this point? It's still early in the process.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's something that we can definitely take a look at and see what the condition of that is. Like I said, most of these, there's a fairly substantial, I think, wooded buffer between the existing development and the campsite, but we want to be good neighbors, so we'll definitely take a look at that and make sure that if that needs reinforcement, then we can include that with the application.
Thanks, Jeff. Are there any members of the public in the room who want to make a comment? Please introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name's Scott Poulin. I live at 55 Baker Road, which is right next to the campground and right next to the new drive that was just put in. And what I will tell you that everything that's been done to that campground has been nothing but an improvement over time. It was very dilapidated. The traffic is really bad that comes out at the other end. As you crest the hill right where my home is and where my business is, right as you crest that hill, you can't really see what's down beyond it. So cars really fly over the road there, so having the exit of the motorhomes coming up to where the new drive is will be a huge sight improvement from what's going on now, and certainly will improve the line of sight and improve traffic and traffic flow on that road. Mr. Crooker's done a tremendous amount of improvements to that campground. My family's able to use it. We walk down, walk the dog, walk down with our own family, and everything he's done's been very tasteful. And if he tells you he's going to do something with buffering or with anything around the property and everything, you can be guaranteed he'll do it.
Thank you, Mr. Poole.
And I'm fully supportive of his expansion to the campground.
Any other members of the public in the room wish to comment? How's the board feel about a site walk? It's in order? Okay. Caroline, how about, do you want to schedule that now?
Yeah, I think it'd be good to schedule. We need about a week to notify abutters. I'm out of the office for the rest of the week, so we might need a little bit more time. So I don't know, maybe not next week, maybe the week after, if that would work for people.
We've had,
And that would also give the applicant time to mark some stuff.
recently we've been doing them first thing in the morning on weekdays. Is that still workable for everybody?
I have a procedure the week of the 29th, so I'm not sure I'll be able to do it that week. I could do the following week, though.
I will be gone that entire week.
First week of February, okay?
The week of February 5th. Except for Tuesday is not good for me.
Not Tuesday. How about Thursday?
Would you guys prefer to try to pull it off at the end of next week?
That works for me.
Yes.
That works for me too.
Thursday possible?
Thursday.
Yep, Thursday.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The first?
I'm hesitant to push it out because we don't have a lot of snow. So do you guys want to try for
Thursday at 8 a.m.?
Thursday the 25th?
I have a standard Thursday morning meeting, so I'm not sure what your morning time is.
8.
So our meeting starts at 10. I'm not
Oh,
sure
yeah,
it's gonna
you'd be
work.
okay.
Too bad.
Is your meeting locally?
I have an 8 o'clock obligation, but can do 8:30. Can we roll it back just a little?
8:30? Is that, crowds Linda a bit, but it's hard to get it. If this is workable, let's go for next Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Is that okay, Caroline? Okay.
That's fine. I will reach out to Jeffrey and coordinate a meeting spot and have someone get the public notice out tomorrow. Yep.
Okay, everybody is okay with you folks?
That's the
Next
25th.
Thursday, the 25th at 8:30?
Yes.
I will.
Thanks, Mr. Kirker. Great.
Does that give Jeffrey time to mark out the location of the proposed road extension and the general area of the new campsites?
Great, thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll excuse this applicant. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you.
Second agenda item is Desert of Maine for an amendment to an existing site plan application of Zerico. Caroline?
This is a modification of previously approved plans. The applicant has 28 campsites. You might remember they've had some tent sites, they had some cabins, and they had been before you for changes in the past. At this point, they are coming back. They want to convert the remaining existing sites to 9 of them to have domes and then 1 site to have an additional cabin. There's no increase in the overall number of sites. Due to the square footage, they were over the threshold. Sorry, the combined square footage of all sites, they were over the threshold for staff approval. As presented in the past, these changes of putting these new platforms in for sites, they're actually going to dig up some of the old impervious area where they had the pads or areas for the campers and the loam seed and do some replanting. So there's actually a decrease to the amount of impervious area on the site. They're not changing the overall grading. So due to the fact that they're not changing the grading and that there's a decrease in impervious area, Adam, our town engineer, did review it, and there's not a concern for stormwater. They should be able to treat with the existing system they have on site. There's no changes proposed to roads or anything like that. They will have some ground-mounted solar lights. Per the ordinance, those will be required to be full cutoff fixtures. The only thing that came up in review, which was referenced in Adam's memo, was down in the back of the property where site 26 of 28 sites is. There's an area that's been kind of questioned as to whether or not it's a stream. It's an existing campsite, but if they're going to make changes, the suggestion's been made that they reach out to DEP to see if that is in fact a stream, and if they keep it in the location, whether or not they would need any permitting. If they find out it is a stream and they want to just push it back so it meets the 75 setback, I think that's something that could be handled at staff approval, or they could decide to leave it as is. Otherwise, there's no real concerns with the project since they're not increasing the number of sites on the property.
So Caroline, just so I understand, that the only substantive change from what we've already approved is the combined size of the units being added?
Yeah, because before a lot of them were tent sites or cabin sites, and now they're going to these domes, which are a little bit bigger, and so the combined square footage of the, I think it's 10 total between the domes and the cabins, was over the staff approval thresholds.
And the other issue you raised, that caught my attention, that you raised in the staff report, was one site might be close to a stream, but that's not a review issue for us, that's just a compliance issue for Desert.
Yeah, the stream isn't regulated by the town of Freeport. It is regulated, if it is a stream, DEP is the only one that can make that determination, and it would fall under their purview. So we want to flag it so the applicant's aware of it. We wouldn't issue any building permits for that one single site until they got some clarification from DEP. To be honest, with a couple people out of the office this week, it's been a little bit of a challenge to get some clarity on it before the meeting. So I think if you guys took action on this tonight, if someone just wanted to make a condition that prior to the issuance of a building permit for changes to site 26, the applicant work with the DEP to see if there's a stream at that location. I believe there might already be a platform or something there, but it really shouldn't be a big issue.
But that would be, if we choose to vote on this favorably, that would be a condition to be added beyond what's presented.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable condition. Yeah, when the staff report went out, there was hope that we could get some resolution, but it was not something that was able to happen before the meeting. So I think a condition would be fair in what you do in other situations that are similar.
Thanks, Caroline. Welcome back, Doug.
Thank you. I don't have too much to say other than to add to what Caroline said. We're completing this transition that we started a couple years ago from being all tent and RV sites to being all turnkey, glamping, cabin, now domes, but just basically turnkey camping. So just a continuation of that vision and the final sort of piece.
And these would be used similar to the A-frames that are the structures you've already built?
That's right. We built those in first set of cabins a couple years ago. Went really well. People really loved them. So we built a bunch more last year, and we're just going to do the rest. I think the other part of the application is the addition of a small, we call it a spa, but basically a hot tub, sauna, and cold plunge tubs as an amenity for guests. We don't have a ton of amenities, no pool, nothing like that. We just have some lawn games. So this would be a nice thing for them to enjoy for all the campers.
Any questions from the board?
I've got one for Caroline. Go ahead, Lynn.
I can't find the paper, but the larger domes have a little bathroom, correct?
You got it, yep.
But is there one small dome?
That's right. There's one small, and it's actually on that site that Caroline mentioned by the stream. That one has no bathroom.
Okay, and so where do they go?
We have a common bathhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, so they walk up to our.
So they would trek to that, okay.
That's right. Nope, yep. Not allowed to go in the stream. not stream.
You're looking at me. Caroline, this is a question for you again. We started out with tent sites. We went to seasonal A-frames. Now we're talking domes. At what point do these become residences or treated differently than temporary housing? Or I'm not sure how they get classified, but there seems to be a distinction somewhere.
There is a distinction, and there is actually a specific definition in the ordinance for campgrounds. So to be a unit, you actually have to have three components. So you need to have the living space, a bathroom, and a kitchen, and in this case, these units don't. So for campgrounds, they can have rental cabins designed and equipped for seasonal use between May and November. And they're designed for transient lodging no more than 14 days. They can't exceed 600 square feet. They're not constructed on a basement or slab, and they don't have cooking facilities. So you'll note some of these might have bathrooms, but none of them have cooking facilities, so that they're not triggering that threshold of a unit. And that, again, that use timeline is written right into the ordinance for all campgrounds.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the board? Any members of the public online, Todd?
There are, but there are no hands up.
Any members of the folks in the room have a comment?
Hi, my name is Thais de los Reyes. I own Athena's Cantina on Route 1. I've known Mila and the Desert Remain for quite some time. I'm very supportive in these new upgrades that they're trying to make. I think that it will bring in different clienteles, different types of people who want to have different levels of camping, from just campgrounds to just glamping, which is kind of great. I think that they've been in a really good path to create a diversity into offering different options, and we're really supportive in this and moving forward with everything that they're working on. I think it's really important for Freeport to build onto that, to our current existing businesses, especially a nonprofit. And we're really looking forward to seeing what Desert and Maine comes up with in the next couple of years. So we're very supportive of it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Kathy Welly. I live on Merrill Road. Our property actually butts up against the Desert of Maine. The property we live on, we don't own it. But when we moved here 5 years ago, we went to look at the Desert of Maine. We were not impressed. Today, it's very impressive. The expansions, the things they've done is fantastic, and I'm totally on board with their changes. I don't know them at all, but I'm very impressed and totally for the changes and the expansions that they want to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Any other questions from the board? We have a draft motion, if anyone cares to make it. And Caroline, if anyone is so inclined, Caroline suggested that we could put a fourth condition on there, that it would subject to compliance with regulations for stream setbacks.
I just want to clarify that they really need to work with DEP to first determine if that's a stream and obtain any applicable permitting, if it is.
Anyone care to make a motion?
I would be happy to.
Good. was afraid we were going to have to deny it.
Thought you were going to have to pick somebody. Be it ordered that the Freeport Project Review Board approve the printed findings of fact and a site plan amendment for Heaston Family Holding LLC for a site plan amendment with changes to include the approval of 9 geodesic domes and 1 additional cabin at previously approved campsites for a total of 28 campsites on the property, a wellness area, and other associated site improvements to be used seasonally at the Desert of Maine, Tax Assessor Map 22, Lot 8, to be built substantially as proposed, application dated December 26, 2023, finding that it meets the standards of the Freeport zoning ordinance with the following conditions of approval. 1, this approval incorporates by reference all supporting plans that amend the previously approved plans submitted by the applicant and their representatives at Project Review Board meetings and hearings on the subject application to the extent that they are not in conflict with other stated conditions. 2, prior to construction, the applicant obtain any applicable permits from the Freeport Codes Enforcement Department. 3, the conditions of approval from the past approvals as still applicable. And 4, that they will work with DEP and obtain applicable permitting relative to stream setback.
Second that.
Second? Okay, roll call vote. Berger?
Can I
Oh,
ask,
sorry, yeah, just Jim.
Caroline, can I ask a question? Is the term seasonally, as to defining the scope of use, is that defined anywhere in ordinance?
Yeah, for the campground, in the definition, it gave that specific dates. You want me to read it again?
Well, no, so I just want to clarify that we're on the same page when we use the term seasonally basically in our findings, that we're incorporating the same terms that are in the ordinance of, we just looked at it, but what the ordinance defines as the permissible season, right?
Yes, so they're going to stay there year-round, obviously, but they can only be used for seasonal between May 1 and November 1. Lodging.
So do we, maybe the question is, in an abundance of caution, do we need to fold in the dates, May 1 and November 1, into our order?
Isn't that in the,
I don't feel like you do. You haven't before, and it's been part of the ordinance. It's part of the standard, so I don't feel like you do. And the tents and the campsites stay there year-round, so I think you're actually probably better to leave it separate.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board before we have a roll call vote? Berger?
Yes?
Donahue?
Yes.
Hamlin?
Yes?
Madeira?
yes.
Monteleone?
Yes.
Reiki, yes. Yankee?
Yes.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
The fourth agenda item is, you've already discussed, Caroline, the ordinance amendments. I think that's been adequately covered, right? And the meeting schedule was shared, and I think if we haven't gotten individual comments back to you for the proposed meeting dates for the rest of the year, we should all do so, and then you'll consider making changes, Caroline?
We typically discuss it as a board. People will always have changes come up, but the things that always jump out at me is there a meeting or a holiday? If you know you're going to be away near July 4th and the meeting's that date and you know it now, let's just get it out there. And then February and April school vacation weeks, a lot of people are away, both board members and applicants. In this case, I know you're down one member for the February meeting. I don't know if you're down everyone else. I haven't heard about April. I believe if you look at the schedule, there was one date change for PRB.
In June.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, the June meeting date we had to move because it was a holiday. So I want to make sure everyone's okay with that. So those are three things I think important to look at just as a board together. And then, the question, we typically, the boards would choose to take off July or August if that's something that the board wants to try to do. Getting that out there now is much easier for applicants to plan accordingly. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. We can always revisit, but if there's days in advance, it's always helpful for everybody.
Traditionally, we took August off, is that right?
Yep. You've been pretty busy, so it's been harder and more recent, but yeah, that's been the traditional month that we've taken off, and July and August seem to be the hardest to get quorums too.
Anyone have an objection to trying to schedule August off?
At all.
Let's try to schedule August off, Caroline.
Let's do.
And just to reiterate, February is the 21st, correct?
28th, I thought.
Yep.
Is it 21st or 28th?
21st.
February meeting is scheduled to be the 21st.
That's the submission.
If you guys wanted to move it, I would suggest you move it to the 28th.
So you can make it.
I can't, I know I can't make it, I've got to change all the dates on my calendar. Switching dates. Okay, note to self. Okay, thanks, Karen. Is there anything else that the board has for business before we consider adjourning?
Was the Juneteenth change okay with everybody?
What?
We had to change that June meeting to the 26th, which would be the fourth Wednesday.
It's okay with me.
It's fine.
Board, are you good with that date instead of May 29th?
Yes, got it.
Obviously, if things come up at the time, travel plans are made.
Happens.
That's what happens,
Showbiz.
but in advance of.
Just let me know that happens. So at this point, I'll modify it with August break and get it circulated.
Great. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second?
Okay, gotta do. Berger.
Yes?
Donahue.
Yes.
Hamlin.
Yes.
Madeira.
Yes.
Monteleone.
Yes.
Reiki, yes. Yankee.
Yes.
Night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Todd, for pulling off Zoom in the room tonight.
Yeah,
It was an
Todd,
easy night.
Outstanding, Todd.
Thank you, Caroline.
Hours were on 2.54.
I think the Portland Freeport trip turned out to be just